The party of AOC is the party of always on crime. Say that again. The party of AOC is a party of always on crime. I know it's fun to play with her initials, and she is someone that's fun to reveal to be what she is. The activists in Washington, D.C. went out and did the most incredible thing. They have been cornered in to trying to stop President Trump from trying to stop crime. Now, I get the argument that President Trump federalizing the city is one step closer to martial law. I reject that argument, and I reject it on the following bases. There was a fence built around the Capitol to protect figurehead Biden when he was installed, a fence with checkpoints throughout the city. There were extra patrols throughout the city. There were National Guard units in the city, all to protect the figurehead while he was being installed. Do you remember the gates that were built around the White House, around the entire Capitol structure? Do you remember the walkways people had to go through? That was federalizing D.C., all to protect the figurehead, because we were told there were armies of white nationalist militias crouched outside every state capitol ready to pounce on the figurehead. They did this at multiple state capitals throughout the country. Olympia, Washington performed the same act of theater, erecting fences and not letting people go in to watch the inauguration of the new members, again, because there were armies of white supremacists crouched ready to go pounce upon Jay Inslee and his team in Washington State, and there were other places that they did this. So the people who are now crowing and crying about federalizing Washington, D.C. had no problem with it being federalized at that point. And I've heard the comparison. President Trump is being lampooned because he said he wants to bring law and order back. Oh, well, January 6th was the most unlawful day in the history of Washington, D.C. You mean the president who wanted the National Guard brought in to prevent what happened from happening is the guy to blame for that? When Nancy Pelosi and her dear, dear friend Mitch McConnell said no to having the Capitol Police backed up by the National Guard. Do you remember that? That's not President Trump. He wanted the order. So this is a revealing of what happens when people who back crime get together in order to stop President Trump from trying to stop crime. Here is a group of D.C. protesters, and watch carefully what happens here.
Fight each other. That's what they want us to do. The answer is to take to the streets. They are installing a fascist America and a fascist takeover of D.C. It is time to unite, not to fight each other the way they want us to do. And it is time to get people into the streets. To get people into the streets. Leave here! Leave here! Leave here! Leave here! Leave here!
No police now. 2 women. They end up fighting one another. Get this fascist off of me who doesn't want me screaming in her face with a bullhorn. President Trump has cornered these protesters into Washington, D.C. to try to stop him from stopping crime. It's a brilliant move. And by the way, I was watching a clip, and I didn't grab this, from Morning Joe. Did you know he's a Republican? Joe Scarborough. Rock-ribbed. He was talking about a reporter he met and chatted with about crime in Washington, D.C., who told Joe, yeah, it's not as bad as it was 2 or 3 years ago, but it's still a very dangerous city. Scarborough said on his program, that's funny because the guy tweeted the opposite. Of course he did. Because if President Trump says crime is bad in D.C., everybody else needs to say, no, it's not. Not to mention the fact that the police captain has been arrested for falsifying crime statistics. This is why President Trump is ordering the crackdown on crime.
This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back.
Crime in D.C. is ending and ending today.
Let's take a brief look at why Trump is intervening in Washington,
Or the
D.C.,
Daily Caller,
shall
by
we?
the way.
New video release shows the suspects in a vehicle in an armed robbery in Northwest D.C.
A group of suspects targeting a high-end athletic store.
D.C. police need your help to find 2 people caught on camera during a robbery and shooting in Chinatown. Investigators say the shooting victim, 20-year-old Charnel Whitfield, was arrested just minutes later for trying to carjack someone.
I was working on the 2nd floor. I was standing on the ladder. Then I looked down in front of me, and there was a man standing there with a gun pointed at me saying, give me your money.
The pair assaulted a group of people, left empty-handed. striking again 5 minutes later on Vermont Avenue near 11th Street. A victim robbed, not hurt. A similar crime an hour and a half later.
Some shots, some bangs. We've seen police officers running in all directions.
I almost feel a little desensitized to it in a way because it seems to be of the norm.
It is the norm. Anybody who's lived in Washington, D.C. knows this is the norm. So, of course, the police captain was hiding or changing the statistics. There's lots of opinions on how you can go solve this. There's some women who have opinions on who could go solve this and how they might do it. And they spoke with a puppet about this.
People who make that mistake of stealing and robbing and stuff, should they be locked up longer?
Oh my God, no. DC is definitely not a very safe place. If you use some common sense and avoid people who look obviously crazy.
Uh-oh! Is fighting crime right-wing?
No. I mean, to be honest, I don't view crime as a political issue.
Shouldn't we just, change how we vote? So they're not put back on the streets so readily?
I don't know how readily they're put on the street.
Have I got a story for you, my dear?
Well, I don't want to hear it.
That's okay, bye. If Republicans take over D.C. and home rule, do you expect crime to lessen?
I mean, a lot of the crime has to do with people not getting what they need.
And what they need is cash? Is fighting crime right-wing?
No.
Then how come so many blue cities are full of crime?
I don't think in terms of blue and red. I do think in terms of racial groups.
Okay, so that's another view of this. What President Trump is doing is simply doing what he did with the border. You have all these blue cities going, that can't be solved. No one can solve this. We forgot how to solve crime. We forgot how to enforce laws. No, you made holding and selling fentanyl legal. You made shoplifting, if it's under $1,000 legal. You've made living on the streets intense and openly trafficking human beings legal. You've made defecating on the streets legal. You've made in separate countries like Seattle vandalism and simple assaults legal. You don't prosecute them. Funny thing, when people don't get their crimes prosecuted, people stop reporting the crimes. Gosh, and Alex is producing this, will remember this. When we worked in morning radio, there was a case where a woman from her home saw her business being robbed. She called the police. They're in my business right now. And the officer said to dispatch, please tell the complainant we don't have enough units to respond and we're sorry. She had to sit there and watch as they stole from her business. But they did have enough people to take hate crime reports. If someone said a nasty word to you that you construed to be racial, or even if it was racial, they would always have officers to go out and report this. The mayor of Washington, D.C., ignoring the fact that the numbers are being falsified, apparently by the police chief, talked about what violent crime is like.
We have seen a huge decrease in crime because of those efforts. We have been able to reverse that 2023 crime spike. This year, crime isn't just down from 2023, it's also down from 2019, before the pandemic, and we're at a 30-year violent crime low.
When you stop prosecuting violent crime or stop classifying crime as violent or stop pursuing the criminals, people do something else. They stop making police reports. So you can say all day long the crime is down, but people have eyes, they have ears, and they know about the number of sirens and gunshots they're hearing. And this is what people are seeing. So what is Trump actually doing? He's bringing in federal cops. Why? So they'll enforce the law. What did they do the first night? They arrested 23 people. How? Because they arrested them. In cities like Portland and Los Angeles and New York and San Francisco and Minneapolis and Seattle, 80% of crime is committed by 20% of people who are constantly released. Everybody knows this. And yet President Trump has backed people into the position of trying to stop him from stopping crime. More protests against President Trump.
We come in, and this is our city. Whose city?
Our city.
Whose city?
Our city.
Whose city?
I think we said ours.
Whose city?
Yep.
Free DC. Free DC. Free DC. Free DC. Free DC.
That's some energy, man. Can you feel it? It's burning through the screen. Hey, this is dude with the woke mask. So we're clear, the Constitution established Washington, D.C. as a federal city. Now, am I wild about this? Nope. No, I don't like seeing federal troops in our cities. When I go to Mexico and I see all the federales, it makes me feel uncomfortable because it reminds me of the instability that exists in Mexico. There's instability in D.C. It's there on purpose. This is where our society has been moved. Not that Dana Bash would know anything about this. Dana Bash from CNN, who's on the TV. There's a new TV series, if you will, and it is taking the book of Acts, a period of time where the apostles went to build the church that Jesus told them to build, and it's moved them from the time right after Christ ascended back into heaven, and it's moved them into our era, a censorship state, a surveillance state. So imagine now this. You're Peter, and you're leading the apostles, and you're out spreading the word, but your words are listened to. Your text messages are monitored. And it's not just that. It's not just censorship or surveillance. It's also censorship. You're not allowed to say this. Now, Peter and the apostles would never stop preaching Christ's word. Yep, they followed the rules of government up to that point. This is a series called Testament. It's actually brave Christian filmmaking because it allows us to examine our hearts. Are we standing for Christ? Or are we allowing ourselves to be censored? You can stream this right now. It's called Testament. It's at angel.com/Todd. You can stream it when you become a premium Angel Studios Guild member. In addition to streaming Testament, you'll get 2 free tickets to all their theatrical releases, and you get to vote on the programs that they produce and distribute and promote. And that way you get to perform an insurrection against Hollywood. Angel.com/Todd. Go stream Testament now. Become a premium Angel Studio Guild member. Dana Bash had a response to federalizing the police in Washington, D.C. Hey, this is very, very unique. I wonder if Dana Bash thought this up herself or if it magically appeared on her teleprompter.
I should note that the most violent moment in recent history in D.C. was January 6th. And it was an attack on the United States Capitol by a lot of people who were doing it in the name of Donald Trump. And it included, the people who were hurt included members of law enforcement.
Yeah, so let's review some things. There was a bombing of the Capitol back in 1983 in the Senate building that was carried out by people connected to the mayor of Los Angeles. Many of those people were later pardoned by William Jefferson Blythe Clinton III. It wasn't the most violent day. January 6th got very, very violent. Sure. And President Trump was very serious about having the National Guard there to prevent it. He is, of all things, a law and order president. You don't have to like the way he does it, but he's law and order. On the other hand, though, you have going on in New York City a guy who wants to defund the police, and he may well be mayor. This is Andrew Cuomo had a response to this, something that this Zondami guy said about how much rent he pays. Zondami. Do I care? No, he's not a serious man. I don't seriously take his name seriously.
$300 for my 1-bedroom in Astoria.
$300 for my 1-bedroom in Astoria.
$300 for my 1-bedroom in Astoria.
So here's what Andrew Cuomo himself, a thug, said. Himself a leftist, himself someone who got people killed in nursing homes. Somewhere last night in New York City, a single mother and her children slept at a homeless shelter because you, Assemblyman Zohran Mamdani, he got it right, are occupying her rent-controlled apartment. You grew up rich and married an even wealthier woman. You've had a wedding on 3 continents. You own properties in LGB, so-called TBQIA+, murderous Uganda. You make $142,000 per year plus stipends, and your wife works too, meaning you'll likely make over $200,000. Now, no matter which way you cut it, Zohran Mamdani, as a rich person, you're actually very rich. You and your wife brag about a $2,300 a month apartment in Astoria. It should be housing people who are in the rent control program. This is Democrat calling out Democrat for what appears to be lawlessness, not of the violent type, but of the thieving type. Oh, and by the way, in New York, guess what's going on? ICE arrests. How could that be happening? Because it's the same thing that's happening in Washington, D.C., some law and order being reinstalled. Hey, look, they're protesting law and order. These are people protesting on behalf of making sure that there's more crime in not just the nation's capital, but that came from New York City. We could turn to the Reverend Al Sharpton, a real reverend. Well, not really, but he gets to call himself a reverend. And he does the unthinkable. Very, very creative. Listen to what he does in regard to crime in D.C. Did he think this up, or did Dana Bash send it to him in an envelope?
We know there's a fatherlessness crisis, but I am saying this. The mayor needs to acknowledge that the city has failed, and she has had many chances to prove she can do better. The council has had many chances to prove they can do better.
But
and
is
Donald
it the
Trump
mayor? Is
down.
it the mayor's job or the president's job? A president that pardoned people that beat up policemen, law enforcement on videotape. Is he the right one that people can have confidence in?
Wait, how did we go from the mayor to the president to Jan 6 because that's the only card they can pull. It's the only instance they seem to be able to find of people on the right wing behaving badly in that way. Gosh, I wonder why that is.